All right, good morning. It's Tuesday. It's going to be a great day, and I'm looking forward to everything that's going on. Yesterday was such a fun time. I worked a little bit, but then I got to do a couple of podcasts. One on diapers to dorms, my book on parenting, and we talked about family. And then I did one on my up and coming book, Immerse, which deals with discipleship and personal spiritual growth. And so it was a good day yesterday. I love doing that, and talking and chatting with anybody I can about family and faith, and so it was good. And so this morning, man, I am so looking forward to this this study that we're doing. The Book of Mark is so amazing because he comes at us kind of fast paced. And so yesterday, I just kind of told the story, and I think I'm going to do it again today because we can read it, but it's so much more fun to kind of unfold it together as we see it. So I'm going to leave the reading aspect to you. And so let's just go back into the life of Jesus. We're centered around the Sea of Galilee. So he's been on the western side of the sea, traveled to the east for one purpose, because there was a demoniac there who had a legion of demons that he wanted to extract and deal with. And so and then he's run out of the village, right? Because everybody's like, we need you out of here. They were more comfortable with the demons in that little hillside than these Gentiles were, than they were of Jesus and his great power. But they were in sheer terror of the power of God, that he could command the demons, and that when he sent them into the pigs and they ran their way down into that lake, or into the sea rather, and drowned. Just too much for them to handle. So this is the events of what's taken place, right? Jesus had spent the whole day before healing and teaching, began to teach on the parables, brought the guys into the boat. He'd been preaching from the boat, brought the guys into the boat, talked to them about the parables, and then said, hey, let's put out to the other side. So it's evening when they do that. Could be late evening, I'm not sure. But it's about it's 6 miles, however long that takes you to traverse the sea. I don't know, but you know the story, right? They got in the middle of the sea. These gale winds came up. They're all thinking they're going to die. He calms the seas and all the disciples. It was a little flotilla, remember? So those who were in the boat with them are like, who is this that even the wind obeys him? I'm like, you've been following him for like a year or so. You've seen him do everything, and still they're amazed at the sheer power of God to be able to command the wind and the sea, and it obeys him. Isn't that amazing? I mean, just reading this is heightening my awe of who God is. So you get to the other side. The demoniac comes running down the hillside, naked, and chains hanging off of him. And as soon as he thinks he's coming down to just wreak havoc. And then they realize this is the Son of God, and the demons drop this demoniac to his knees. We see the healing. He gets kicked out. Jesus sails back. So this little flotilla now goes back to the western side, to Capernaum. And so all the people, the scripture says, when Jesus had crossed over again in the boat, we're in Mark chapter 5, verse 21, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed by the seashore. And so this is what's going on. So he comes over, and everybody's on the seashore waiting, because they knew, okay, he went that way, he's coming back. He's come. That's their enterprise. Those boats. So they gotta bring him back so they can go fishing. And so they come back over to the other side, and there is a man named Jairus, who is a synagogue official. Now, a synagogue official means that he's kind of a manager. He's not a rabbi. He's not a scribe. He's not a priest. He's a manager. That is, he oversees the synagogue. Which is kind of like it's their church, it's their gathering place. So he would schedule the activities, decide who's going to read the scriptures this day, and he would make sure the scrolls were in place, and he would do all of those things. He kind of ran the place. He ran the workers. So he's entrenched in the religious system that is the Jewish faith, and that system is diametrically opposed to everything that Jesus is doing. And so here's what we realize. I can imagine Jairus pacing the seaside because he knows something, right? He's got a daughter and she's 12 years old and she is dying. I don't mean like, sometimes our kids are going, I'm dying. I mean, she's dying. This could be her last day on the earth. And so Jairus is pacing. He's looking in the horizon because he knows that Jesus can heal. What he knows about him beyond that, we don't know. We probably know everything the religious leaders had taught and all of those things. But see, all of life is theory until it comes down to a crisis, right? We can have all kind of thoughts about religion, and we can do all of that until it comes to crunch time. And here Jairus is deciding, do I believe what my rabbis are saying, or I'm going to believe what my eyes see? Am I going to believe that Jesus is of the devil, or am I going to believe that he is in fact the Son of God? And so Jairus is at this moment where he's doing this, and he's not going to let his religious views, and nothing's going to stand in his way of getting to Jesus. Sometimes you just got to press in. Not really sometimes, all the time. He's not concerned about his reputation. He's not concerned about protocol. He's not concerned about his self-respect. We know that because here's what happens. It says, and one of the synagogue officials named Jairus came up and upon seeing him fell at his feet. So he falls at the feet of Jesus and he gets straight to the point. He knows, I don't know how much time I've got because the whole crowd is pressing in. So Jairus positions himself so as soon as his feet land the shore, Jesus is on him. Jairus is on Jesus, and he drops to his knees out of sheer respect and totally undignified for a synagogue leader. And he says, please come with. Now, he's asking an awful lot. This is a big ask. Can you leave the whole crowd and come with me to my house? But see, isn't that how it is when our problems, it's like the whole world doesn't matter. It's my problem. And this is human nature. And we should cry out to God when this happens. And so this is what Jairus does. He says, look, if you'll just come to my house and lay hands on my daughter because she's dying, please come. And so Jesus does. Come on. Isn't this good? Listen, he's always got time for me. In the midst of the sea of all this hubbub of life, when I cry out to the Master, right? What does the scripture say? His ear is ever attentive to my cry. He knows my need. Even before I ask, he knows. And so there's this great confidence that I feel welling up within inside of us as this takes place. So Jesus and Jairus and the crowd begins to make their way toward Jairus' house. How far he was away, I don't know. But the crowd is pressing in on Jesus from all sides, and Jairus is right there. And you got Peter, James, and John. You got the other, the little flotilla people, and they're all there, and they're heading down the road. And then there's a woman who for 12 years has been unclean. For 12 years. It's interesting. It's the same age as his daughters. To tell two daughters, both of them have a 12-year issue. One is 12 years old and she's dying. The other has for 12 years felt like she was dying. She has some sort of a female issue because there's this bloody discharge that she keeps having. Now, every time that happens, she's considered unclean. She can't touch her husband for 7 days. She can't touch her kids for 7 days. She can't be out in public for 7 days. She can't go to synagogue in 7 days. She can't touch anyone for 7 days. And then as soon as she gets over this, if it happens again, as soon as it happens again, that process. So it's a 7-day cycle for her that she has to hide out and all of the shame and uncleanliness and all of those things. Even though there's nothing other than a discharge as far as there's no virus thing that's going on, this is her life. And she's heard as well that the healer is in town. And so she's thinking, the faith of both of these, the faith that you could stand before this new rabbi who the whole crowd is pressing, and you can get to him, get his attention, tell him your need, and convince him to go with you is great faith. And so then, so he believes that Jesus can do what he can do. Listen, sometimes we just got to press in, I'm telling you. And so then here's this woman. And she's got her own issues. And Jairus, he's trying to hustle Jesus up. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's like trying to keep everybody away, keep him undistracted. Let's keep going. We're almost to my house. I can almost see it. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And then in the middle of that, there's this woman who just says, like, I don't even need to see him. If I could grab the hem of his garment, he is so powerful. I think if I don't think he has to touch me. If I touch him, I think I'm whole. And so she moves her way, maneuvers her way. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, sir. Whatever. And all the while, she's throwing her uncleanliness out the door, right? She's like, I'm just going to do this thing. And so she reaches her arm, however she does, around enough people, and she feels that garment of Jesus, and she grabs it. Jesus stops in his tracks. I'm sure Jairus is like, what's going on? Jesus says, who touched me? Who touched me? Now, the disciples are going, everybody, Jesus? I mean, like, the crowds are pressing in. Everybody is. But then there are those in the crowd that aren't sure what's going on either, because Luke says that everybody's denying it. So you've got the disciples going, the whole world's pressing in. And other people going, I didn't touch you. I didn't touch, because they don't know what's coming. I didn't touch you. I didn't touch you. He said, no. Someone touched me because I felt power go out. Can we just pause a minute and think about what that means, what that says? That your faith in my faith, God feels, not just sees it, right? We think, he sees our faith. No. He feels it. I felt power go out from me. The intimacy of that is just sheer amazing to me. That the King of Kings, the creator of the world, when we demonstrate faith in him by stepping out in faith, he feels it. Why do we believe it? I mean, this is what the scripture says. And so he says, no. I feel it. Then his eyes lock on the woman. And he looks at her. Now, she has thought. She's not said a word. She thought, if I just touch the hem of his garment, I can be made whole. His eyes lock onto hers. She now, just like Jairus, drops to her knees. Still not saying a word. Jesus, with his eyes locked on her, says, daughter, your faith has made you well. And so at that moment, she said, but even before that, she felt her discharge dry up. She knew when she touched him, she felt that power of God surge through her body and create that healing process. Now, while Jesus is having this encounter, his eyes are like, you got to follow the story now, because the crowds are crazy. Jairus, you sure? He's like, oh, come on. He's like a little kid. We got to go. And Jesus is locking eyes on this woman, but he hears behind him a little stir, because people had come from Jairus' house and they've said, hey man, your daughter died. You forget what's going on here. Just come on. Your daughter's dead. Now, this is what I love about Jesus. He's focused on this woman. He's meeting her needs. He's aware of everything around him. He hears the conversation over here. You talk about multitask. You and I think we can multitask. The King of Kings knows everybody's business. The King of Kings doesn't miss a thing. He is the God who sees us. He's walking the planet. And so he turns to Jairus. So his eyes leave this woman because she's got her deal. And he looks at Jairus. Now you can imagine Jairus. He's all hope is here. And then it's like someone pulled the rug out from under him and now it's gone. And so I can only imagine, because when you hear the news of a sad news, sometimes it makes us like lean against a wall, doesn't it? Makes us drop to our knees. You and I've been there. We've heard people say, hey, this is it. This is the end of life. So-and-so died. Your loved one is gone. And there's this feeling, especially when it's an untimely death, it feels like everything is just drained. And just as Jairus is feeling all of that draining in his body, and who knows what's going to happen next, Jesus locks eyes with Jairus and he says this: stop with the fear. Only believe. Right? Hey, come on. This is Jesus going, hey, you got no worries. Just believe. I got this. No. But my daughter's dead. So he moves the crowd out of the way. Jesus, however he does that. And he takes Peter, James, and John and Jairus, and they walk into, they head to Jairus' house. Now, they get to the door, and there's a crowd there, and it's wailing and moaning. If you've ever been to an Eastern funeral or seen one, it's sheer crazy. It's pandemonium. People are falling out, and they're wailing, and they're crying. And so Jairus, now the reality is set in. His child is dead. This is the scene that happens. This is what happens. The whole world goes crazy because this death thing. See, it's this curse of sin, and it's what happens to us. And so he goes to the house, and they've all done this, and he says, "Hey," Jesus says, "Stop it. The child's not dead. The child's asleep." Now, at that moment, everybody that's been wailing starts laughing at him. They're mocking Jesus. Oh, she's not dead. We've just seen her turn blue. We watched her get cold. She's dead. Jesus, the scripture says, basically moves them, throws them out of the house. Almost like a kind of a cleansing of the temple. He's like, out with this stuff. Get out of here. And so he goes into the room where this little girl is laying. And he says, Talitha Akuma. Talitha Chahum. Means little girl, arise. Now, this is, as far as we know, the first time that this has ever happened. Jairus is like, okay, well, I mean, I've heard all these stories, but raising somebody from the dead, Lazarus hadn't been raised from the dead yet. So she gets up and she walks. He says, don't tell anybody what happened here. Like, he know when he says that, he knows that they're going to go tell everybody. And he says, get her some food. Now, what are we to conclude with this fast-paced story that just comes at us in this craziness? I just mull over this over the past few days as we read through this. But here's some things just to remind you of as we leave. Jesus feels your faith. Just know that. See, he knows our fear, but he feels our faith. And so I want Jesus to feel my faith. I want him to see it, but I want him to feel it. Before any action is taking place, I want him to feel this old heart going, if God don't help ain't coming, right? This is what we want. This is for you and me. He always sees you, no matter how busy and chaotic the whole world is. He's mindful of you and your need. He can lock eyes with you as well as the 7 billion other people on this planet. In the midst of a crowd, he can take care of you. He can clear the room of doubters if he needs to. I appreciate that sometimes. And he has limitless powers over life and death. There's nothing. Remember that little song, there's nothing that our God can do? My God is so big, so strong, and so, my little kid song, right? There's great power, truth in that. There is nothing my God cannot do. We have to know that. So we have to stop the fear. We just have to trust him. Breathe. The King is with us. The healer is here among us. That's good news, isn't it? I love you guys. I can't wait. Man, these stories are getting better and better. And rock this day. All right, live it in full faith. You trust. Don't you doubt, and don't you let fear grip your heart, and don't let the doubters get into your head. You just trust that the Son of the living God has locked his eyes on you, and he knows your needs. And this day, he's going to meet them. All right, love you guys. I will talk to you soon, Lord willing.